Hello and welcome to Cross Contour Drawing. My name is Eric. Today we're going to be talking about doing a cross contour drawing of a complex object. My object here is a chess piece. We have the knight here. A couple things about this object. It is synthetic, man-made, so there are specific things to look for. One of which is that it is symmetrical. So being symmetrical, we can cut it in half here. And it'd be the same on both sides. If you were to take the top of the horse off, the entire base actually has radial symmetry. So anywhere you cut it, it's going to be symmetrical. So we're going to use some of these observations in our basic line drawing at the beginning, which is hopefully going to help make a more successful drawing. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer. You can see him. There we go. I am going to try and turn him at a little bit of an angle. I am also going to be thinking about filling the page. That's a very important thing. We do not want a small drawing here. We want to be able to fill the page. So some of my preliminary sketching is going to be planning just that. So let's give this a go. I'm going to look for proportions first. So if I can do a basic shape for the base here. I am using an HB. HB is a nice medium valued pencil. Good place to start. And I'm then coming with a vertical line down the center. With symmetrical objects, finding that vertical line is really important because then you can then build on either side of that vertical center and plan your symmetry a little bit easier. I'm not sure the angle of the horse yet, but I'm going to do the base because it is radial symmetry, which means no matter how I turn the top, it's not going to really matter. And we've got a little break here. A loop. And then another loop. And this curves up. Okay, so now that I have one side, I'm going to try and sort of mirror it on this side. Once again, at this point, we're trying to stay light and loose. It's still very easy to alter my lines. There's the front lip of the base. Somewhere down here is the back lip of the base. Okay? Quickly sketching. We're not trying to get anything perfect yet. We're just looking for the space. Okay, now I'm going to go into the horse. I do think instead of doing it completely in profile, I am going to try and get a little bit of perspective. So what I'm going to start is the nose somewhere here. I'm going to bring it up to sort of size in that head. Noticing that the edge of the chin here is past center line on my base. So using guidelines, I have center line here already going. I can then differentiate that chin going across. Finding basic shapes here and filling the space. From this base here, we're going to build out, come up, and down across. Okay, so pretty basic. The shape is definitely a little bit large here, so I'm going to cut this back in. Inside of the horse's neck is more like there. Then there's sort of an ear. And then the mane pushes a little bit higher. So there's no problem in coming in with a quick eraser, cleaning up a few of your lines as you go. This is the mane coming across, coming back down. Notice that I haven't really done anything different yet. I'm still sort of in a very sketchy phase, taking my time, working on proportions. So that as I continue to build this drawing, that's my main focus at the beginning, is proportions. So not a perfect drawing, but a decent likeness of my observation here. I did use a number of pencils. I started with that HB, the lighter pencil, to get that sketch in. I then used the 4B to get some of this darker line quality, defining some of this space more accurately. Now I'm going to use a B, sort of a medium value, to build up some of the cross contour lines within the form. So a good really place to start would be some of this ridge line here, the texture here, the curvature in the base, and this area here. There's going to be a number of ways that I can sort of try and develop the topography of this. But starting out, the texture here is going to be a very sort of visceral thing, very easy to see, sort of no ambiguity within that. So I'm going to start by adding contour lines. I'm just adding, I guess these would be cross contour lines, inside my subject matter. Standalone looks okay. The base of this, I'm going to follow some of the curvatures that I see. So say the curvature here and the curvature here, they are a little bit more exposed to the light and they have less textural element. So I don't want to lose that this actually has some texture to it and is more dramatic. So when I actually come in here and start defining this space, I'm going to be leaving space more open so I can fill as I go. So if I see this line here, I'm going to start trying to describe how I would see this curvature in a space. And you realize the closer the lines get to each other, the more dense that space gets, it sort of appears that it's further away. So the centralized area of this object is technically closest to me. It's curving this way. So I'm going to try and be adding more lines to the outside of the structure, which is going to help push it back. Same thing down here. I'm going to continue lines. I'm going to let them be independent of these lines here. I might try and carry some of those lines down, which I think looks nice. But I'm not going to try and carry or stay super specific to that. Adding a couple more lines on the outside is going to help push that space back. So already I'm starting to get a little bit of modular illusion in this form. This is starting to appear a little bit closer than the stuff on the outside. As I continue, I do want to try and keep some of this line fairly clean in the cross contour. So I am going to have that pencil, eraser handy as I'm working, as I'm building up this form and thinking about space as I go. Okay, so now we're going to keep moving into the higher part here. Same thing. I'm going to be following the outside border. As I'm going, I'm trying to clean little areas up, any stray lines, trying to clean it up. Notice there's a fair amount of stray lines on the outside here. You do want to keep this drawing fairly clean as you move through. Spent a fair amount of time on it. You want it to look good. Maybe one sort of centralized there. Continue to sort of clean up as I go. I am going to try and keep the line weight of the bounding elements, the outside bounding lines, the more dramatic structural form, thicker, more dramatic as we go around the space. So I'm continually going back and just reinforcing those lines. Moving on through, we have some structural stuff in the horse to think about as well. This bottom edge under here, we're gonna probably try and build this space out. It was maybe more of a structural line. Maybe bump it up a little bit. This is actually a little bit weird. Definitely not a perfectly proportioned drawing. But here we go. So this space gets developed. This space, I'm using this line to try and help build my eyes up to that on the side. So it sort of flattens out. Okay, we're going to continue to move. The area here that's all connected, sort of harnessing in the horse. When you have a really sort of dramatic organic element like the horse, and then you have a semi-synthetic element like all of the leather strapping, a way of trying to break away from that, and I actually might change this, it's flattening out a little bit, is to just follow the outside here. Adding a nice consistent fill of space to where you understand that the object is basically very similar no matter where you're looking at it. I'm absolutely going to change some of the first marks here. I think that this is starting to flatten out a little bit now that I'm using those other parallel lines. So if I clean this up, add a little bit of a cleanup here, and maybe just leave it for now, see what happens. Okay, this hair is more textural, it's nice and easy. I'm going to add a nice texturized line here, moving through, cleaning up negative space as I go. You can deal with shadow and more prominent space with just a thicker line weight. So like this line here, determining his chin, the really important structural line. And when I add all of the cross contour lines within, I don't want to lose this. I might even bring back a darker pencil just to make sure this space is where I want it to be. Definitely going back and forth and refining space as you go. Don't think of the drawing as, well, I'm done with the lining stage, I'm in the cross contour stage, I shouldn't be lining anymore. Continually be working back and forth in this and adding what that drawing needs. Good, so we have a nice deep line here. Facial features, once again, are not perfect. By no means a perfect drawing. Okay, so let's start thinking about some cross contouring here. I'm seeing some textural stuff coming down, sort of starting from this area here. So I'm going to start by adding some line weight down. Remember, I'm really not trying to render this 100% as I see it. In that cross contour, you're still trying to use lines to represent this texture and space and volume. So some of these lines obviously are not here. I'm just trying to continue a line weight as I move to keep that space looking similar optically as we move through. So these are definitely getting larger as they come out. So I'm just going to change the angle of those a little bit. So those kind of all fade back to here. So good space for them to fan out. Thinking about line quality the whole time. Getting a little sloppy on this, but try to stay consistent. And then we just have the face kind of going in here. So we're coming in and we're building up some structural forms in the face. Remember, they don't have to stay parallel, but there is a nice order to keeping a similar curvature to your lines. Which kind of builds up, once again, sort of the curvature of the face. This is definitely larger or more protruding. And this nose defines these. Okay, so I have most of my lines. I did reduce this. I think I'm going to go more like this. Most of my lines developed for my cross contour. Things I still need to think about is cleanliness of the drawing, differentiation of line weight, and then just optical accuracies at the end. I am going to come back with my darker pencil, maybe even, why not, my darkest pencil. And I'm really going to try and push the visual weight of the lines that I want pushed. I'm going to allow the lines that I already have on there for the cross contour to sort of just sit. I'll be going back and forth as I go. There's going to be a nice deep space in here as well. Cleaning up stray lines. And as I said, just going through the space. Sometimes what I like to do is sort of take a step back on my drawing. Try and look at it with fresh eyes. You get looking at a drawing for so long, it's hard to really see it for how you would if you were just looking at it for a second, rather than staring at it for hours, or something like this for about an hour, 45 minutes, whatever you're spending. And that's the goal. I will continue to push space as I go. I'm not sure I like that as much. I think I'm going to experiment with just doing the diagonals here. I think that'll level off fairly well for the base of the object. Yeah, that's not bad. Keeps it sort of in that same space. Maybe I'll do that in this space too. Just keep that in mind. It's okay to erase. It's okay to rework areas. Clean line quality back up. Think about that cross contour space. And bring it this way. And then develop space using contour and cross contour lines.